I want to welcome the server's best rogue, Zoomer.
Hey everybody. There's a lot of people here already. It's really nice. Welcome in everybody.
All right, so for those people who don't yet know us, we raid in TWoW, quite seriously, I would say, or at least I would like to believe so. I asked Zoomer the other day if he would like to have some form of like constructive feedback to the devs with me, and other than just writing forum posts, and a podcast came to my mind that other players could watch, maybe even the devs could watch. So here's us doing just that.
We hope it's gonna turn out great. We have a lot of ideas covered already for future episodes as well.
Yeah, so who you may see on the left side of your screen, the rat, that's me, that's Tawney. You can see the guilds I'm in is Thunder Ale Brewing Co. and Blackwing Guard.
And my name is Zoomer on the right, and I'm in Thunder Ale Brewing Company as well, and I also raid with clickers.
As you guys can see, we have seven steps in this little podcast today. We are gonna go over each one. We'll think it's going to take roughly an hour, maybe two, up to how much we can talk about topics, how much the chat wants to join in during the Twitch Q&A section, all this stuff. Disclaimer: if you are not from TurtleVal, this is a private WoW server with Vanilla Plus changes. It is an exceedingly popular server with over 7,000 daily players online on the server. It is an absolute wonder of a server. It's been around for many years. It has a very loyal and loving community. Zoomer,
And
would you say?
yeah, the player base is just gonna keep increasing. Like we've had increasing populations by the week, which is absolutely insane for any private server. I think
Uh,
before we dive into any topics, I think an introduction is in order for the people who don't know us.
all
So
right, you can start.
I can go first, yeah. So my name is Zoomer in game. I also have a hunter named Zoomies. I've been here on the server since about March 2021. I did, however, take a 1 year break, but overall, this is like the best server I've ever played on. Unlike other people on this server, first of all, I'm really young compared to the normal player base of other private servers, and I have actually like zero experience from other servers in general. I played Classic for 1 or 2 months, I'd say, and that's about all I've done.
All right, I am Tawny. People also do not know me in the private server community, as this is the first server I ever invested any amounts of real effort and money and time into. I have I have raided before, mostly in retail. I come from I am someone who came from a top 200 guild during Legion, really try hard times. So the atmosphere on Turtle is obviously different, but I'm enjoying it because hardcore raiding is fun and all, but that's not what we are here for on Turtle. On Turtle now we are here for the community. We're here to have fun, to meet people, to partake in RP events, to just play a game we were all familiar with in our childhood and have a good time. That's really the essence of Turtle, and what took me away from retail raiding and retail community. The turtleback community is just it's such a nice community. It's a good feeling to be a part of. I've been playing WoW since I was 9 years old. I was super young when I started. I I wasn't very good at it. I quit about a month or two in, but then on and off I kept coming back. Every few expansions I played for a bit, and in Legion I stayed, and after Legion I quit, and I felt the urge, looked up some, private servers, found Turtle, and here I am.
I do kind of have a similar story as well. Uh, People in chat won't know who he is, but I got into this game by another character who's been playing on Turtle WoW for a long time. He sadly quit last year. His name is Jerry. I had like zero experience playing like MMOs in general. I grew up with FPS games all my life, so like Valorant and CS:GO with my Zoomer age. Uh, he asked me if I wanted to try out Classic in 2019, and I just instantly fell in love with it, and we started like over the summer just like playing every day for like 9, 10 hours, and after Classic kind of died, it went into TBC. Jerry was kind of looking for other private servers, and we originally set on another server. Unfortunately, though, like the servers actually like burned down in real life, and so we found
Oh,
Turtle WoW way back in 2021 after they merged. And yeah, I've like Turtle WoW is like the server I've played the most on. I think I have like 200 days played or something.
on your main? Damn.
Yeah,
I believe you've been here for quite a while before I joined. I joined Turtle in I believe August, last August. But
but
you've
you
been here before that.
yeah, you definitely have like generally more like World of Warcraft experience than I do. Like the only experience I've really gotten is from just playing on the server.
Sizumer, I think a lot of people are in a similar boat. I every day I see a lot of people on Turtle who are new to WoW. They never played it before and they want to experience it here. And I think that's a really cool thing that Turtle allows that for people, and they don't have to go through the trials and error of like having to go through retail raiding filled with bots and GDKP and all that.
Yeah, plus it's free. It's really
Yeah,
awesome to see all the new players coming in. Like I remember when I started playing on this server, we had like the max population we ever reached back then was maybe 700, 800. And when I came
and
back to this
now
server, just seeing 5, 6,000 on average was just insane to me.
7,000.
Yeah,
I
7,000 now.
It's crazy how quick we are growing. And with the quick growth, it's also important to mention that one of the reasons for the growth is the devs. The devs are actually making weekly patches and adding more content to the game. And have you seen the trailer for the new raids?
Me personally, I actually haven't. I
You
do
haven't
know,
seen?
however, when I started on this server, it was originally a role-playing PvE server. But then
Yeah.
after the class changes patch, that's when the server like really took off, because it just made like the whole V plus server thing is really popular right now. You see other servers like Duskhaven and Epoch in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And I also
I,
think like Turtle WoW is probably like the only like good server, private server you can find right now for vanilla. I know a
yeah,
lot of
it's
people have
very good.
complained about Everlook, and that isn't V plus either. It's just standard vanilla.
Yeah, but we are here for Turtle right now.
Yeah,
And I
yeah, yeah.
think we're gonna stay for Turtle too. Um, so maybe we can go over to why the idea of a podcast came up.
Yeah.
Um, so we'll have a few slides for you guys later off in the podcast, but before that, let's finish this topic. Um, we have, as I said at the start, we were considering, going to going through some more like higher quality feedback. Like we could amass some feedback that we could just deliver to the devs themselves. But we understand that the devs are very busy and the forums are, everyone has a lot of good suggestions. Some are in different directions than most, but everyone has suggestions. The devs have to go through all of them, and having an alternative to that where we discuss things with people who have been playing here for a long time, and maybe, well, next week even going to have a guest in the show in the name of Rogreg from Blackwing Guard.
And speaking of roguelike, content like this you see for Turtle WoW, there's not anything special going on for content just going on for Turtle WoW. We have Rogax new news anchor thing on YouTube. That's about the only like creative kind of thing I can see going right now. It'll definitely change in the future though, I think. Just with the expanding player wave, and it's just gonna keep getting popular and more popular.
Yeah, with the next patch bringing a lot more content for raiders, especially with the new raids and new zones and dungeons that are coming out. I think it's a good time to start making some kind of effort where the voices of veteran players that spend a lot of time on this game can be heard. And if we offer a medium for that, that would be really sweet and, just actually very useful for the devs, as they wouldn't have to spend hours and hours just looking through suggestions made by people with like 0 posts and like no max level characters, just like making a forum post because they're bored or something. Like we have so many people in this community, like Zaz, like Fugger, like all these people that created so much. Shagyu, even the Shagyu tweaks, all that. Like there are people who have done so much for this game, and their voices are sometimes drowned out by a sea of people asking for things that other people have already asked for. But it's hard to have them know when maybe they are a new player and they just felt like coming in and sharing an idea, and unbeknownst to them, dozens of other players have already shared that idea. So in this podcast, we can invite people who the community knows, recognizes, and they may have some really good suggestions.
Yeah. I feel like so the development team for TWoW is like insanely small, and I think it's just
Mm-hmm.
amazing all the effort they actually put into the server. There may be 15, 20 people working on the server altogether. Just the
Yeah.
amount of effort for each person is just insane to me.
Should we start talking about the third topic, or is it? I think we can go.
Yeah, we can go to the third topic.
Let's have the slideshow part begin.
I'm gonna start off with a conversation we had with Jamie. You can elaborate a bit on that, Tony.
Um, Yeah, let's quickly talk over. So, if you're a new player, this might not affect you much, but one of the bigger reasons why we wanted to start this podcast was the recent echo change. We felt like there has been some maybe misguidance in the community towards the GMs or the developers, as we the players have not really seen the real reason behind this change, but for those out of the loop, Winter Spring Echoes, which become a very essential consumable for raiding, they have gotten nerfed quite heavily, in fact. And the nerf was targeted at people who are using maybe multiple accounts, 2 or 3. I don't even know if that's allowed, but let's say 2 accounts, and maybe a friend is along with them. So basically, a small party would farm these mobs, as you can see on the screen right now, and they would, whenever a mob would drop an echo, which is a 15% drop chance, all party members would be able to loot it. And what many people did is they would ask a friend to come along with his second account. So you have 4 characters, maybe 5, and then 5 characters. Could you go back to the second
Yeah,
slide?
yeah, yeah. Sorry, sorry.
So you have 5 characters trading echoes to 1 character. And this would speed up the farming of echoes to the point where you could be done with your winter spring consumables for the next week or two in about an hour or two. But they have removed this, and now you can only get 1 per person in the group. And as you can expect, this has increased the amount of time raiders spend in the zone significantly.
Yeah. So Winter Spring in general is like the biggest hotspot for level 60, I'd say, because the amount of consumables just from one zone you can get is just absolutely insane. We have on screen here, you can see this is like just the Winter Spring consumables like a raider would need in like for raiding, obviously. You have Winterfell Firewater for melee classes. You have ecos that are like there's a bunch of different ecos we could get into, and there's tea with sugar, and tea with sugar is probably the most farm consumable out of all. Like if you ever try to farm these like during like big population hours, you just see like 5, 10 people farming this at all time.
I included the tea in the picture and the fire voter because they are also this. It brings us the same issue. If people have to compete for mobs, then we arrive at the same situation as with that Furbolg you have seen on the screen. That Furbolg is the Winterfell chieftain. There is only one of him on the map, and he has a 50% chance to drop a elixir, sorry, a fire water. So you have at about any point at least a handful of people standing at his cave waiting for him to spawn every 5 minutes, and whoever gets the tag gets a 50-50 chance to get one item that lasts for 20 minutes.
That's also part of the reason, like me and Tawny personally, we are a bit biased towards the eco change in general, with it being bind of pickup, because
Mhm.
all of these were that they were definitely designed to be like a group setting, and with the fur box also, it just feels like a way, like a big competition. You're competing to steal other people's items instead of say just
Exactly.
partying up and getting the same item.
So the changes that they are proposing is that they are willing to revert this change where, not all party members get to loot it, but at the cost of the item being bind on pickup. Now, this doesn't really solve the issue of people, duo boxing to get these, because realistically, it just okay. We can have a conversation about why this doesn't work when we consider how there's a fundamental difference between people who make groups for the giants at the south part of Winterspring and why people avoid making groups for the furbolgs. People avoid making groups for the furbolgs because if a fire voter drops, the person who loots it first gets it, and that's discouraging for people to party up. So even if the new change comes through and you will see five little warriors killing the furbolgs in that one village on the map, you're not going to be able to group up with them because they will not invite you because they don't want to have the chance that you will loot their fire voter. That fire voter, when I last checked, was being sold on the auction house for about 4 gold each. 4 gold for 20 minutes.
Yeah, because the thing is, with the Furbolg farms in general, like, you could make insane golds per hour, because ecos, like Juju power ecos, Winterfall ecos, they would sell for maybe 1, 2 gold each, and Frostmourne ecos we're selling for like 4 to 5 gold each, which is insanely expensive.
Hmm.
Also, when you consider the fact that hunters can't use Winterfell Firewater because it doesn't work with ranged attack power. We have this issue of hunters need to farm Frostmalls, but now they can't, like, they couldn't really party up and do it. And now you can't really, like, buy it either. It's like, it feels like a super weird change.
Yeah, it's an indirect nerf. It's an indirect nerf to warriors, rogues, hunters, feral druids, and enhancement shamans and retribution paladins. Out of which, it's the biggest nerf for the hunters single-handedly,
And also,
because the hunters also use these on their pets.
the thing is also, like the Furball caves will probably still be heavily farmed, like on command, but that's gonna
Hmm.
be for the people who actually want it. I think the majority of warriors and rogues are gonna stop using Juju Power whenever they run out and just start using Elixir of Giants, and that's just gonna start a whole bunch of other problems. Because now Grump's Blood is gonna be on like way higher demand, and the respawn
Exactly.
rates aren't high, and you still have 20, 25 people farming these at all times. Now you're maybe gonna have 50.
For people who are not too invested yet in the raiding scene or just aren't very knowledgeable about consumables, some consumables don't stack with others. Typically, if an item gives, as you can see on the screen, the Winterfall Fire Water gives attack power, you won't be able to stack it with another consumable that gives attack power, like the Juju might. And the same thing goes for the Juju Power that you can also see on the screen. That doesn't stack with Elixir of Giant Strength. And the Elixir of Giant Strength, as Zoomer said, needs a Grum's Blood. You know what else needs a Grum's Blood? Flask of the Titans, 30 of them.
Yeah.
And that's something every single tank wants to have running in almost every single raid above Moltenkor.
If not every physical DPS. Because
Yep.
the issue is, well, we're gonna discuss this into like further detail a bit later into the stream, but consumables in general feel like a super necessity for most guilds. For example, me as a rogue, I feel like I need a Flask of Titans because for physical mechanics, say like cleaves and other raids and stuff, if I don't have a flask, I feel like I'll just die, you know?
Yeah, and if you die, you lose all your other consumables, so you have to make a choice. Do you want to spend 30 gold on all these other consumables, or do you want to spend 70 gold to get to keep the consumables that cost 30 gold?
Exactly, yeah.
So it's a lose lose situation for the raiders, I think it's very important to mention here, and I'll try to be a bit over-explanatory for the new people who may not be big into raiding. There are things called world buffs. World buffs are a type of buff that a player can acquire in the open world, hence why it's called world buffs. And these buffs have been removed from the raids on TurtleVan not too long ago. And ever since then, raiding has changed completely.
Could I head over to that slide?
Oh, do we have that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, as you can see, well, this is a bit different, but you can see like the top, you can see people that are using consumables are doing a lot of damage, and people who I didn't name, who I presume aren't using consumables, are doing quite a lot less damage. You can see that the powers of proper consumables and proper buffs and debuffs on targets can almost triple your DPS in the correct setting.
Yeah,
But let's go
because
back to the
yeah,
Interfell one. Go ahead.
I was just gonna touch on that. I'll get back to that later.
We also have the tea with sugar at the top left. I just wanted to
Yeah.
include this because I feel like this, if the echo change goes through, it's going to make another tea problem. The problem, let's start with the tea with sugar is one of the most amazing additions to TurtleVow. It allows a lot of classes like Elemental Shaman and Boomkin and Retribution Paladin to be able to raid because it solves their mana issues.
And this thing already is just super heavily farmed. Like you can see in this picture here. And this is not
I
even like during peak hours.
Nope. I went there on my paladin, who's also, by the way, a healer, because D is very useful for DPS classes with mana, but make no mistake, D is the number one consumable of healers. And the quest to get them, healers with their healing items, their spell power and their healing power and their spirit, they need to go over to Winterspring and compete with mages and warlocks who are farming these. And there is also a chance that your Resto Shaman might not even have a DPS set. So he just has to find 20 of these that are not yet killed or tagged, and he has to kill them one by one. And then he has to go back all the way to the left to deliver the quest on the map, all the way to the left side of Winterspring, turn it in, and go right back because you believe that you're gonna need quite a few stacks of tea. Quite a few.
Yeah, because on average when I do my T runs, I'm not even a healer. I just use it on my hunter because hunters use mana, of course. I do 4, 5, 6 runs of these. And running, I have a mount set, so I have about 15% more speed. It still takes me like 5, 6, 7 minutes to run from the farm to where I turn it in. And during like peak hours, you're gonna be farming these for maybe like 30 minutes because the tags are just so contested.
Yeah, I also farmed them on my warrior too because guess what? It works like a health stone. It doesn't share cooldown with the healing potion, so I can use both the healing potion and the tea on the same button. I can keybind them together, and they heal me for quite a few times, like about 4,000 health if either of them crits.
Yeah, it kind of goes the same for rogues because now rogues have the option to either use your secondary potion cooldown as either for thistle or for tea with sugar.
Yep.
It also
So
tea in general basically made health stones like pretty useless in raids. They heal for more, but if you use mana, you'd probably just want to use tea with sugar instead because you get the mana and the health.
not to mention, some fights are long enough where you can use up your health stone and still have it up, but you can only carry one health stone with you. So even if you used up one in a longer fight, like say Nefarian, you will be able to use one more. But as I just said, it's a unique item, so unless the Warlock trades you one during the fight, you're not gonna get one. So
Exactly.
those
Yeah.
situations you want to have tea in your inventory because it's going to act as a second health stone. And the entire discussion for this is that if the echo change goes through, we are just going to we are going to create an artificial problem, and it's going to make this image you see with me standing in my paladin, seeing all those dead alkins. That's going to be the Furbolg village, but with about 10 times as many people.
Yeah, it's gonna be even worse on peak hours. It's gonna be like 50 people farming these. And the thing is, there's 2 or 3 like spawn points on these. You can see that on this picture. Like they
Hmm.
don't spawn a lot of places. And even
It's
if there's
just
no
the way it is. Yeah.
players, even if there's no players, it still takes 10 to 20 minutes to get these if there's absolutely no players like tagging any of them.
Not to mention that the people who are farming these, other than healers, are usually going to be people that have, gear from a Blackwing Lair or AQ40, or even very often Tier 3 from Nextramus. So if you are a new player and you want to get this consumable because, hey, new players, they use mana more because their spells hit for less, you're going to be finding yourself competing with people who can probably kill a mob before you can even target it.
And now imagine doing these kind of tea runs maybe every 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how much tea you use and how much you get per run. Now imagine also having to farm ecos every week because you need 2 to 3, maybe even 4 different ecos for every raid.
It's not uncommon to go into the Furbolg village and be met with hostility if you successfully manage to take take the tag on the chieftain by yourself multiple times. And if you're, very enthusiastic about this, you can have a timer that starts counting the moment the mob dies, and as soon as 5 minutes pass, you can get ready to tag the mob as soon as it spawns. And if you aren't there when the mob dies, you're going to be at a disadvantage over someone who's constantly camping it. It's designed to create a toxic environment for between raiders.
I also want to touch on the topic of ecos getting soulbound now. The argument for it was basically to combat, like, they didn't feel like it would contribute well to the economy and you'd have multi-boxers and people farming this. The issue with that, however, is people who do multi-box with the intention of farming gold, they don't do these kinds of runs. They
Nope.
don't do ecos.
People like there some people yeah, we can deny there have been, ecos on the auction house, but I don't know if I sent you the picture. The ecos now that they are, not shared by a raid group, their prices went up by about 900% when I last checked. They went from about 70 silver to almost 10 gold. I don't think I sent you that one.
I think I forgot to add it, yeah.
No worries. um you can you can see where the issue lies. So even if they make it bind on pickup, all it's going to do is it's going to speed up the burnout of existing players. Because let's face it, people can, just not use them. But when has anyone ever been, happy over losing power in WoW? No one's happy when their character gets rest sickness. No one's happy when their character's weapon is broken. So it's logical that no one's happy when a consumable that gave them, like 40 attack power or 30 strength is suddenly, they are not being encouraged to get it anymore.
The issue also lies on top of all this. If we then make it so you don't use consumables in raids, it'll also increase the time you have to spend to clear each raid.
Mm-hmm.
I have that picture somewhere. So you can basically see here, like the 14 out of 15 and all these numbers basically mean how many bosses were killed in each run. And you can see the run where everybody used consumables took 2 hours and 36 minutes and they killed every boss. The one where they used a few consumables here and there, they did every boss except Kel'Thuzad, but it took them 3 hours and 36 minutes. Then you have the run where they didn't even clear Saffron. I didn't use no consumables, and that took them 4 hours to reach there.
Also, it is a bit of a hyperbole, as people haven't been using it. They have been using the mandatory consumables, like tanks have been using the consumables to stay alive. This is meant to be about the DPS and the healers slacking on consumables, as the tanks can't really afford not to use them, because if your tank is missing, 3000 HP, he's most likely going to die a lot, even in Nextramus. But
Yeah,
it's a hyperbole, but I want to use it to get the message across that in a turtle vow without world buffs, your consumables are the new world buffs. And it's if they keep on going with the echo change, it's going to take more time to farm the echoes than it ever took to get a Diremal tribute run or to organize an Onyxia head drop or a ZG hard drop. It's going to take up way more time than what time we got thanks to the world buffs being removed.
Yeah. And already consumables as a whole, like for people like us who have farm gold before and have like sustainable income, kind of, just getting consumables in general just felt easier to just buy because say you didn't have time X this week or the week following, you'd just buy whatever you needed for the incoming raid. And the
Mm-hmm.
consumables you already use are like insane. We have a picture here of the consumables Tawny has in his bank, and I have a picture of what consumables I use.
Oh,
And
that's not
this,
even my bank. That's just my bags.
that's
I
just your
haven't even
bags.
shown the bank.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah,
haven't
Zoomer
even
shows
shown
the
my
bank
bank
too.
haul. The thing is, this week I spent 50 gold on thistle teas because I used 500 or 600 thistle teas in like 2 months.
Mm. You know, many people will look at this and absolutely get discouraged from raiding, and I want to point out that you don't have to do this. This is just something that we do because we like to be at the top. We like to push for the best possible damage we can. But everyone doesn't have to do it. But if you look at my inventory, you still have some items that are not that expensive to get, like those mushrooms you can see on the left. Those don't cost much. I think I bought a stack for like 5 to 10 gold.
And you can make them
They are.
yourself. You can make
You
them
can also
yourself.
make them yourself. See, the expensive bit were I don't know if you can zoom in on this, but if you can zoom in on my 3 stacks of Winterfall Firewater,
I
that
can't, but yeah.
those three green flasks, those took me about 4 hours to farm by myself after the echo change.
And say
It
if
wasn't
you're
fun.
then also raiding Nexramas in your melee DPS, or even just a hunter, you need to get consecrated sharpening stones as well. And those
Hmm.
are hard to farm if you're not a hunter because you can't just solo elites. You have to find either like a dungeon group for Stratholm or do like Scholomance runs just with the intent of getting stones. And on my hunter, I use 10 to 12 of these every week. On my rogue, I maybe use 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, it's some people will say that if it takes you this long, is it worth the time to even get them? Because you can go back to the previous slide here. Um, some people may ask, okay, you did it 2 hours faster than another guild, but wouldn't it be better to just do it 2 hours slower, like the other guild, and you don't have to spend this much time farming? And like, that's an argument to be made if you only put in consideration your own time. But as
Yeah.
soon as you consider that 40 people spending 4 hours in a raid is 160 consecutive hours, because every single person has their own free time and not everyone's free time is the same value as others. Some people are, students, they have a lot more free time. Some people have families, they would like to get back to them. They can't afford to, you know wipe so many times on a boss that they can't, take their kids to practice the piano somewhere. They people For some people it's vital that an activity lasts a certain amount of time.
And consumables as a general just feels like it's super trivial because it feels like it's a necessity for any type of content you do. If you want to PvP, you're gonna find yourself playing versus people who have engineering and are using free action potions or limited
Mhm.
invulnerability potions. Like consumables are way too important in vanilla, and I think everybody can agree on that.
Yeah, whether we dislike or like them or use them or not use them, I think we have every side, both side has to agree that they are an absolute necessity to vanilla, because they shape the game. So if you want to remove them, you have to change other parts of the game. But if you are making it obnoxious or making it really difficult for players to get them, you're not removing them, you're just making it harder for the really dedicated players to get them. Because people who want it, they will get it. But if you're forcing someone to spend 5 times as much hour farming something, all you're going to accomplish is they're going to burn out and stop playing altogether over giving up on power.
And that'll also happen for the casual people. Let's just take a warrior for example. The absolute minimum you'd need to get into most guilds is to you use a elixir of mongoose and elixir of giants, and you use magic mushrooms. That's maybe 7-8 gold per hour you use right there, and
Mhm.
that's the bare minimum. Now that like Gromspot are definitely gonna spike up in price, it's gonna raise the question like, are the casual, say this warrior, is he gonna stay because he now has to spend 4, 5, 6 hours more just farming gold to get the exact same thing he was getting last week?
No, I think we have to consider the argument that world buffs were removed, and the number one reason for it has been that the devs cannot balance a World of Warcraft where 4 or 5 guilds are using all items and all consumables, and they are clearing content in 2 3 hours, and then another group is doing the same thing, but they are not using anything, and it takes them 2 days and like 6 7 hours. So even if you're on the side that, hey, I don't want to speedrun, I want to take my time, it's still an issue because the devs cannot balance the game. Because if they buff the classes that are performing badly in these you know casual 2-day runs, they're going to absolutely break the people who are using full consumables, and you're going to see people like cleave bosses down together. You're going to see people clear next in an hour. And if that ever happens, you're going to create a vacuum where the casual players see, hey, it's possible for me to raid for only an hour instead of 2 days. And then they'll, do it because, hey, if I can have this 5 extra hour for myself, I can just do whatever. I can get the gold, but I can just, speedrun the raid. No one's forcing you to speedrun. No one is. You can choose any guild you're comfortable with, but the devs can't balance the game for two completely different groups of people.
The
Because
thing is
if,
with consumables as a whole, it's not about the speed running, but clearing a raid, let's say 1 hour faster just because you spend a little gold here and there on consumables. I think even as a casual player, I just prefer if I save it, if we do like 4 hour runs instead of 5 to 6, just because everybody's using 7, 8 gold per hour. I think
yeah,
it's definitely better.
and it's like, you're clearing the final encounter in the game. What else are you going to use your gold on? There is nothing left in the game. Like, if you already have your epic riding, there is not much you can, there's not much you can spend it on, so might as well spend that extra gold on it.
Yeah, I think we've talked a lot about ecos and consumables as a general. Could maybe move on to the next one.
Okay, sure.
Uh, I forgot to show these, but we actually also did like a few forum posts and like talk stuff about. We'll talk more about this in future episodes about classes as a whole, and we'll get people from who main specific classes to talk about their ideas and rogue stuff, for example, and all that.
Yeah, please do understand that we are not trying to enforce or like even encourage people to be like super tryhard. We are trying to raise awareness that the devs shouldn't, you know, create changes that are targeted at a super small minority that I personally haven't even seen. I don't know about you, Zoomer. I've never seen people who are pulling 40 characters into Winter Spring to farm the mountain giant echoes and then sell them for hundreds of golds. I've never seen that in my
Yeah,
life.
I've
The
never
most I've
seen that
seen was
either.
like 5 to 6, but
The
that's
th-
it.
the thing is, with those multi-boxers that went to farm those ecos, most of them did it just to save time to get that consumable for a character they actually play themselves, and instead of selling it.
Yeah, it shouldn't. This change doesn't affect the casual players, but it will affect them eventually because this affects the raid leaders and the officers who are raid leading the higher level raids. Like if you have a guy who raid late, who like we can take any of the current guilds right now. You can see that the guys who raid lead Naxxramas, they also raid lead Blackwing Lair. And sometimes they even raid lead Molten Core and Zul'Gurub. So if you make these guys have more responsibilities and more jobs because they have to spend more time in raids, you're just going to end up burning out the people who help you, the casual, clear the easier raids by offering guidance. And the geared out people who are burned out, they're not going to help you anymore. So you're going to have to step up yourself, or if there is no one left to step up, you're not going to be able to enjoy the game on a laid back perspective anymore. You have to take into consideration the health and the time requirement of your officers and raid leaders, because I haven't mentioned this yet, but I kind of hinted it at the start. In the near future, or maybe in the late future, we're going to get at least two, if not three more raids on TurtleVow. The two that have the trailers are Emerald Dream and Karazhan, Lower Karazhan, which implies there's going to be an Upper Karazhan. But there's also rumors of Scarlet Citadel, which is going to be a 40-man raid, harder than Naxxramas. So, sorry, I've been going on for a while. Uh, I want you to imagine that your raid leader is already raid leading 4 or 5 raids a week. This is 3 or 4 more raids. You can't expect them to raid lead even more raids almost every single day. It's going to end up as a 9 to 5 job for them, and that's not healthy.
That's basically how it would feel like just doing every raid every week.
And
Cause
you can
say
say, well, you don't have to do it, but if you don't do it, and if enough people say they won't do it, the casuals who only do those raids, they are not going to have a group anymore.
and you also run into the issue. Say X person in this raid, like let's say it's a guild that does nags on farm. This
Hmm.
person needs something from Blackwing Lair. If everybody that got their loot from Blackwing Lair stopped showing up, that guy could never finish Blackwing Lair.
Yep. It creates a situation. I posted about this on the forums before. It creates a situation where people who like we have guilds where like we have like maybe 4 5, most 7 8 people in our next raid still need the Blackwing Lair trinket. And because they've been waiting for so long, it's likely that once they get their item, they are going to be so tired of seeing Blackwing Lairs, so tired of killing Nefarians, so tired of being time-lapsed on Chromagus, they are just going to burn out as soon as they get it, because they feel like it's a marathon and it's finally over. And it shouldn't feel that way. It shouldn't feel that way. It's and even if they themselves get burned out, it won't just affect them. It's going to affect the other 39 people who have been playing with that one person for months, if not years. And suddenly they just see that this one guy had developed an obsession over an item and he ended up quitting or burning out because of it.
Yeah, that goes for a lot of people. I think more so in our guild, since we are like more tailored for hardcore people. I don't think the issue would lie as much in other guilds.
I've seen a lot of people quit on TurtleVow before. I've seen a lot quit either because they didn't get loot or because they did get loot and they felt, like they were either aggressive because they didn't get an item and they felt like they deserved it, or they were sort of relieved and they just had enough and they couldn't even look at that character anymore. And I know this is a personal thing. This is, it's not the game's fault that this happened. Well, it is the game's fault that it happens, but these emotions go through the players. But the game is created in a way that makes this happen. It's created in a way by having items that are just way too good be way too rare. That's the best
Yeah,
way I can say it.
there's definitely a lot of stuff like that. Like vanilla was never like balanced in any way. You see every warrior still using Lionheart helm because it's the best helmet you can get in the game. It just
Yeah.
offers way too much, and it's crafted.
How many people have you seen that they got into Blackwing Lair and they just wanted to roll for Drakefang Talisman, but they were told that they couldn't because we have this guy and he's been here for about 7 months and he's still waiting for it. And after him, there's a guy that's been here for 6 months, then a guy who's been here for 4 months, his friend who's also been here for 4 months, then there's a guy who's been here for 3 weeks, and then there's you.
And that's just one item. Yeah, because
And
I
that's one
remember
item.
I remember on my rogue, I was doing AQ40 for about 7 months, like on and off. Like I skip a few weeks here and there, but I did it for about 7 months just to get one item.
Mhm.
Like raiding definitely feels way too time consuming compared to like people have like full time jobs and they have families and they have things to do in real life and all that.
I think it's a choice at this point. Should the raids become less time consuming so that people have time to do other things in Turtle WoW and in real life? Or do we want to continue down this rabbit hole where the end game is going to be that people are going to get super burned out, not because there is too much content, but because there is good items that make you feel like you're progressing your character scattered across like one item per raid. Like you
Yeah.
spend 4 hours in a raid, you spend 2 hours to prepare for it, and you have one shot at an item that drops 5% of the time, and you have 40 people that want it. So maybe instead of saying don't raid or just quit the game, maybe, change something. Make it more enjoyable, make it less toxic, less abusive, because it's basically an abusive relationship. And you can say just go away, but I would like to say, maybe improve it somewhat, considering we are in it, we have spent time in it, we have friends in it. Like if if you know, it's about having the people who I met here in the game stay in the game. And even if I improve my own mindset, I can't force my own mindset on other people I met in the game.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is definitely a bit biased since we are. I call us ourselves like hardcore players for sure. Like we put in a lot of effort just to see more pixels and higher numbers and all that. I think though, like the main thing that like burns people out is definitely just not getting the loot. That's one thing for sure because you're gonna be doing X-ray for. People have done these kinds of raids for years and they still haven't gotten their item. Maybe because it's a different class and the guild doesn't particularly see
Yeah.
a reason to give it to that class and all that. And you also have to like you're gonna have the problem of getting these consumables. Even just the basic ones are gonna take even more time. Because now again, like I mentioned, Grom's Blood isn't only used for flasks and Elixir of Giants, it's also used for rage potions. And
Oh, don't
most wars
even.
are gonna want to use those.
See, I think Mighty Rage Potion is like a very big issue in Turtle WoW, because I think about maybe, if I go to the logs and I look at the warriors, I can see about 300 warriors who participate in Next Remus. If I had to guess, I would say about 10 of them, maybe 20 of them use Mighty Rage Potion to begin with.
Yeah, because it's super expensive for an like it's not like
It's about 3.5 gold per use. So if you're doing Next Remus, or if you're doing a raid with 10 bosses, that's 35 gold per raid.
and the amount of gold it costs just to get 100 rage for the same amount of Grom's Blood, you could get a 1 hour 25 strength buff.
Yep. It's it's something that yet again creates a divide for class balancing. Because how many warriors do you know that use Juju Flurry and Mighty Rage Potion? Because I don't know many. I really don't know many.
Yeah, me neither. I don't even use Juju Flurries anymore.
I still have some, but yeah, after if this echo change goes through, I'm never farming them again. And I'm going to be sad because I'm going to lose power over a change that I feel like is absolutely redundant and is just targeting the 1%, or not even the 1%, like the like it's targeting like 20 players on the server really.
And it won't fix like people farming gold just to get a bunch of gold with multi-boxing because ecos were not that farm you would do for getting that much gold.
No, before all this, I was buying. I sometimes bought echoes for like 50, 60 silver. Oftentimes, levelers who don't even understand the value of the echoes, they would just put it on the auction house for like a couple silver.
Yeah.
And now imagine right now that you're a new player, you're grinding in Winter Spring, and you kill a bunch of tigers, and you got like 20 echoes. You want to put it on the auction house, and you see that you can sell them for 400 gold. And it's absolutely it's
It's
ridiculous.
absolutely insane.
The economy on echoes right now is absolutely crushing itself. It's I can't I don't know what to describe it. It's
The
just
market is basically exploding for that.
yeah.
Especially since it's gonna be buying a pickup, people just wanna get rid of it as soon as they can.
Even I have a couple stacks of these echoes on my warrior, and I'm really debating if I want to like sell them on the last day to see if I can make like a massive profit. And by last day I mean next Wednesday, because every Wednesday there's a patch, which is going to be tomorrow. So maybe I'll just
I would
check the
have
auction
probably
house.
done the same if I had ecos, yeah. The only reason I have ecos is because like I never had the time to farm these. I just had them because while I was on my 1 year break, like I mentioned at the start, I had these just saved up because they're soulbound as soon as you like turn them in, and so I just
Mhm.
had these.
It's I think it would be really nice to just like maybe have us see the thought process that went down behind their decision behind the conclusion that led to this decision, because I really can't see my like what happened here that caused this. Maybe someone saw a multi-boxer in Winter Spring and they reported it, and you know they thought maybe this is a bot because they just saw 40 characters following each other. Hypothetically speaking, of course, I wasn't there. So we have no clue what caused this. But even if that was the case of like people, using 40 characters to put items on the auction house, is it really a bad thing if we can buy the echoes for like 10 silver because someone is doing that?
A bit biased myself, but I would say no. But that's just again as a hardcore player who's getting like every consumable I can, really. It would just save me so much time, you know. And it doesn't like ruin the game that you can get these super easy, I feel like. Because they're always gonna be farmed, even if it's buy on pickup, even if the drop rate is decreased to maybe 1%, some people are still gonna want to farm this because they just want
Yep.
like the maximum increase.
There's always going to be at least a couple people. All this is doing is it's just making people who put in the effort and work every day to play their game in their way they want to, because everyone is free to play the game any way they want to. If the game for you is collecting transmog, that's on you, that you can do that. If the game for you is ranking in PvP, there you go, just don't queue Alterac Valley as Horde. If you want to do whatever you want to do, then you're free to do it as long as it doesn't hurt anyone. And I think raiding and taking raiding very seriously and trying to, beat yourself, beat your own record, beat your own performance. Like, ever since gaming was invented, arcade games, people have always had a high score whenever people were playing an arcade game. And competing against your friends who gets a higher score was always fun. So maybe you're too young for this. I don't know if you've ever been to an arcade.
I haven't, but it goes for the same because I grew up with Mario Kart and like the
Yeah.
competition there was like either you get first or you just don't get first place, you know?
Yeah, like competition in gaming has always been a thing, and I feel like there is toxic competition and then there is non-toxic competition. And racing against your own performance to see you get like a higher record every time is not a toxic thing. But having the devs make a decision that in a way punish this as a way of enjoying the game is essentially the devs saying, "Hey, we don't want you having fun. We want you to do the exact same thing other people are doing. Don't stand out. Do your own thing." I don't believe this to be. I confess this was a bit, like a bit extreme example for me, but this is what I'm getting at. It feels frustrating. It feels like the devs made a decision and they didn't consult anyone who's rating and they just went through with it.
And I think the thing is like we're like it's basically going hard down on consumables, which I understand, but the way it's been like it's people like they're doing it just feels so wrong. Because consumables definitely need a heavy nerf if you want to make vanilla a, like a better game. Because consumables pretty much just ruin it in a way. Because hardcore players are just always gonna abuse consumables if they can.
Yeah, I think it's a it's an uphill battle to say. Like, people are always going to get an advantage. There is if there is an advantage that exists, people will go for it. All a change like this does is you're going to discourage old players who are used to something. I think world buff removal was only fine with the veterans of this server because they were, in a way, promised an equivalent exchange where we lose world buffs, but because we lost world buffs, we can open the classes on Turtle for endgame balancing. I think that was the idea for most players on Turtle WoW.
I think removing world buffs in general was like a really good idea because it wasn't a good design, and I don't even think it
No, it
was
wasn't.
intended to be worked for raids. Like the
Yep.
idea behind world buffs was that you use it and you have it while you're leveling, and it just makes leveling feel a bit easier and faster.
Yeah. Maybe you queue for a battleground or two with it. You get like a super, like it's like a power up, like a berserking buff. You have it until you die. That's it. They probably never intended this to be something that would define raiding so much, and they definitely never intended players to just get world buffs and then look out in front of the raid. That's why Blizzard added the chrono boost, the chrono boons,
Yeah, that
and
was
that's
for
why
quality of
Turtle
life
now
at
added
the
it.
start. Yeah,
So we can already say that world buffs were removed, and that was the correct decision. But people in exchange were expecting, you know, talks of class balance. Like, I would like to see Turtle Vow devs have like some ambassador sort, or like some dedicated team that isn't just one person, but like one person per class, maybe one person per two class, something like that. Just not like super overwhelming to them. Anyway, I want to see them have like a say some dev diary where like every month the person working on it like makes a thing like saying, oh, I made this, I'm experimenting with this spell, I'm experimenting with that spell, something like this. And like the players on the forums could just join in and they could share their own opinions, like, hey, I like what you did there, but have you considered this and this and this?
yeah. I think they're already working on that. We did hear from Acrylics that they're currently working on making some sort of balance team in relation to the upcoming class patch, which is, I'm gonna assume it's gonna be out during the summer. It's gonna be released around there, I think.
I don't obviously I would want it to be out as soon as possible, but I am trying to be like realistic. Like, one thing I see, sorry to change the sorry to be changing the topic here. One thing I see a lot on the forums is people are asking for big changes. I think after talking to the devs and being told that they are working on so much new content, so the new raids, the new zones, the new dungeons, the new classes, well, not new classes, the new class and race combinations with human hunters and troll warlocks, like all these things. It's so much work, so much work. So if we suggest something, we want to suggest the biggest change with the least amount of work for the devs. That would be like an ideal change. And to me, that's something like, combo points for rogues staying on the rogue. That would be a small change that would be super huge. Or just
Yeah.
the TBC combo point system.
I think that's what other servers are using too, like other vanilla servers that have been around. But definitely, I think a good way to combat this or like go around this is if we could just hear from the devs or the people working at the class changes, like what the limit is as to how far they're willing to go for each class, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get what you mean completely.
So say I request something just super out of the picture. Like I wouldn't know it was out of the picture unless we like have an idea of how far we can go with our like
So you're
the
saying
suggestions we have.
you don't want assassination to turn into a healing spec.
Exactly. Like theoretically, I wouldn't know if devs would be okay with that because we don't know what the limits are. We do definitely know like they want to stick true to like what each tree already does and just make it a bit more viable.
I would love to talk about this, but I want to save this for next week.
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I
yeah.
want to talk about the rogues on Turtle because I feel like rogues are a bit of a how do I put this? The rogues are a very weird case on Turtle to me because they have received by far the least amount of changes, but it opened up an entire new playstyle centered around rogues for certain encounters in the game. But we'll talk about this next week.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, hmm.
Let me look at my notes real quick.
We could take some viewer questions now if that's fine.
Maybe yeah, yeah.
If anybody in the chat has any questions, now is the time to ask away and we'll answer.
Not going to put the chat on the screen because we don't trust you guys. It's the first time. We don't want Zoomer getting banned. So just say something and we'll respond to it.
It can be about anything about Turtle WoW. It doesn't have to be when will Jars have a new monitor. I mean,
Okay, that's a tough question. Please, next question. While they think of while they think of questions, let me bring up another topic. I think something that hasn't been discussed yet, but I wanted to mention it. I had it in my notes. Is the uh, change to classes, and I think this was about the rating because um, is there really like a reason in your opinion that there shouldn't be say like more like instance wide nerfs or changes? Because for instance, world buffs are basically an instance wide nerf. So like in raids you can't have world buffs, that's a instance nerf, but like in battlegrounds you can have them. So that's already like one example of Turtle like balancing the game differently for different categories. And it made me think like, would it be a terrible idea to have something like Retribution Paladins do 30% less damage with Holy Strike in a battleground? What do you think of that?
that could definitely add a bit to the balancing because there have been lots and lots of people have complained about Red Paladins as a whole, partly due to we did basically find out there's a bug with the berserking buff you can pick up in battlegrounds, in that it does 130% plus like 130% for paladins because it scales with spell power and then it also adds the attack power basically.
Mm-hmm.
Someone asked how much time it takes to invest, or how much time it takes to get from like tier 1, say MC gear, up to max gear. Honestly, that
That's a good
depends.
question.
It kind of depends on what guild you're playing with. Most guilds will like have a gear requirement to even like put you into max.
Mm-hmm. So I think it's a very good question because it opens up the dialogue on is it okay for certain. It's actually a very recent controversial topic, so thank you for asking this. Recently the TurtleVAD devs have actually just this patch have nerfed the crafted elemental leatherworking set that many druids and rogues and even some fury warriors were using.
Oh yeah.
And it exactly happened because, as you're asking, the devs expect us or like want us to have a progression from tier 1 to next Ramus and have the time invested in it. But, with the existence of high level crafting gear from the raids, it's very possible that you can, just skip a raid or two. You don't have to do Molten Core, you don't really have to do AQ20. You just go straight to Blackwing Lair. Maybe
Yeah.
that's not a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing. I personally don't have an opinion on this.
That's probably like to each person's own opinions. I definitely have seen like we have for example a bunch of new rogues who joined Tapsy, and after a month of raiding with us they're pretty much in like full AQ gear because nobody who raids snacks in our guild really needs AQ gear, so it's basically
Hmm.
just free grabs.
Yeah, at most people need like one or two, but yeah, we discussed this earlier, like the toxic item design of vanilla, where like people are stuck in a raid because they need one item.
And I think it was a good thing they nerfed that custom set. And I feel like, personally saying, I feel like Lionheart Helm and Titanic Leggings should also be nerfed, which is gonna spark a lot of controversy, of
I
course.
agree with that. I'm a
But
warrior, and I agree with that.
I just don't feel like a craftable item that's so easy to get on the server now should be this good. So good that you like never want to replace it.
So I think in conclusion to your question, I can't pronounce that name, Swarted. I think approximately if you put like a 3-4 month benchmark, if you never miss a week and you're in a guild that has every single raid on farm, that's a realistic time frame. But if you're joining a progression guild, which is there's not many progression guilds on Turtle, but they exist. If you join a progression guild, it's gonna take you about 7 or 8 months.
Yeah, that's it. That makes sense, yeah. So for back in the day, it was definitely harder to get gear because I joined the server right around when AQ was just cleared for the first time, and getting gear back then was a bit tougher. So
Mhm.
I was still in like pre-raid biz when I joined the Blackwing layer with Tapsy, and that's when I joined Tapsy. And then I got into AQ, and 1 to 2 months after Nax released, and like all the AQ gear just pretty much became free.
Mhm.
Like so the tier set tokens for the most part, like before the huge player waves where like nowadays you have to wait for like weeks and weeks just to get the idols to turn in your tier 2.5
Yeah.
shoulders as a warrior or paladin.
Thank God they buffed those. They increased the drop rate on those idols by, I think, 3 times because it went from like 0.2 to 1% or something like that.
And that's definitely a good change because I
Yep.
remember some people were waiting for like months because they were paladins weren't very welcome at the beginning. So it took them a really long time to get those idols.
Uh, let's um, let's go to another question.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, actually, I know this person is asking. He's not playing on Turtle WoW, but he's asking us, "Have you tried Epoch WoW? I think Turtle already suffers massively from being on vanilla client, and it's only going to get worse with the good vanilla plus servers around." I think this is a super long topic, but I'll just say I have tried Epoch. I think they have a good thing going on, but we'll have to see what when and how it turns out.
Epoch waiting room, yeah. I'll definitely say the Wrath client is way better than the vanilla client. But
Yes,
honestly, the vanilla client for Turtle WoW does make sense because it's the idea of Turtle WoW is basically vanilla with extended like stories based on vanilla, which totally makes sense.
I think the people who are making Epoch have their work cut out for them with the Wrath of the Lich King client and trying to modify it.
Yeah. There's also the thing with the vanilla client, you won't have a lot of add-on support. So if you're coming from retail, you're gonna be very disappointed with like the add-on support for vanilla clients for sure. Like you see, like if new people joining the Turtle Out Discord server, they're all asking if weak auras is a thing, and they're gonna be very disappointed to hear it's not.
Yep. I think it's a I think it was a really nice question. I think we can just say that it's a nice idea, but we'll have to see what it's like once they fully finish it and what the content release will be like for them.
Yeah,
And also something about the add-ons. I think it's really cute how like the add-on community on Turtle is a growing thing because it's not that fun when everything is already figured out, but I find it very fun that we have people in the community who are making add-ons and are making new things like like actively working on things as we are talking, as we are speaking, and more things are coming to us and made by very smart and talented, hardworking people in the add-on community.
and even just like doing Turtle WoW mods of already existing add-ons is like super huge. For
Yeah,
example, with True Shot for Hunters, the Steady Shot backport, there's like no auto shot timers actually track those, and so Daka and also Dole made some backports of both Yacht and Quiver, which I think is awesome.
yeah. I think the next big step for Turtle Vow, like the raiding, it's going to be an add-on that can track Sunders and other debuffs that were refreshed and used from the players. If we can figure that out, if we can figure out a way to do it, I think it's going to revolutionize hardcore raiding on Turtle, and it's going to allow us to help out players who may be struggling a lot more than what we can right now. Because right now, I spoke to a raider friend of mine, Archimonde, and he has shown me a way to get a very rough estimate of Sunders by looking at the amount of dodges and parries and you have to assume that a DPS with proper positioning gets about 5% parries and dodges. So you just have to take that missed amount times 20, and that's like a rough estimate of how many times they sundered, but of course it's not accurate.
You definitely also have a bunch of add-ons that don't work properly with the increase to the debuff limit. And it's not
Yep.
like debuff limit is a bad thing, but a lot
No,
of
no,
add-ons
very,
that
very good
use the
thing.
debuff limit just don't work properly anymore. For example, I use PFUI and I had to find other add-ons to track cooldowns that are based on like when I myself use them instead of looking at the target. Because it also just fills up the screen so much when you have like 64 debuffs on a target.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Like
Are there any more questions? Sorry, you can go ahead. I just wanted to.
I don't. Someone asked if we've played retail, and Tawny has played retail for a while.
I did. Zoomer tried Legion. He farmed mounts and then he quit.
Yeah, me and Jerry farmed mounts for 2 months, and then we quit. And then he got me into playing League of Legends, but that's another story.
Something I also have on my notes is the in regards to raiding. I think someone was talking about this in the chat a bit earlier before we asked for questions. The difficulty in WoW, and and what I wrote down here is that the difficulty in raiding in WoW, in Turtle WoW, it's not equal. Some classes like Warrior has a very high skill floor to be played properly. You need to invest a lot of gold and a lot of time before you can push out, the infamous Vanilla WoW Warrior DPS.
Yeah, but I definitely for warriors, I feel like it's so easy to play a warrior and do good damage. I'd say like you press
Mm,
X and X button in this order, and you just do good damage. I feel like.
I still think when compared to something like Mage, that's just one button. It's just super difficult. Like, yes, you really just need to be pressing Bloodthirst and Whirlwind on cooldown and then Heroic Strike when you have Rage, but you're also melee. You have to like watch that you're always auto attacking. You never accidentally cancel it. You have to keep up Sunders. You have to keep up Battle Shout. And then we have a class like Mage, where you have one player assigned to Scorch every 20 seconds, and you have four other mages assigned to press Fireball until they run out of mana.
Yeah, and even for hunters, like the rotate, I feel like hunters are in a really good spot right now because the addition of True Shot first of all made them like competitive to rogues and other warriors and mages pretty much, which I feel
Yeah,
like is totally fair. And it's not like the class is dumbed down because there's still things you can do as a hunter to increase your damage significantly, like way more than other average hunters who maybe just use steady shot. For example, I
exactly.
use multi shots and arcane shots and serpent stings whenever I can on my hunter.
What's your secret tip for new players coming to Turtle WoW besides the usual have fun, go at your own pace? I'm not sure what you mean by secret tip. Um, do you mean like something that's like unique to Turtle WoW?
That is, but yeah, that is. I I'll probably just recommend you try out all the custom content there is. Like I know a lot of people in this server don't even know, but there's like you can do the shimmering flats racing and you can do the races around with the little cars for actual rewards that are pretty cool.
I actually tried that just the other day. I think they are really bugged right now. They often get
Oh,
often get broken.
they've been super bugged, but when it works and it's cool when
But
it
it works.
works.
It's fun. I guess from my perspective, something that I would try as a new player if I never played WoW. Well, your question was never playing WoW, right? I didn't imply if it's a new WoW player or something that's not mentioned often. Okay, something that's not mentioned often is I would say look up the first thing you should do if you want to stay for a long time on Turtle WoW is you should go to the Turtle WoW Discord and you should look at the guilds channel and you should try to find one that fits your personality, your time zones, and all that, so you can right off the bat socialize with your own group. Because there's a lot of people on this server, a lot of different people. Some people are kinder than others, and that's okay. That's how humans are. So if you're someone who's like super social, you don't want to raid, you want to roleplay, you want to have fun leveling, there is a number of roleplay guilds on the server you can join and have fun. If you're someone who likes to raid, you want to push yourself, you want to get a shiny cool weapon, there are guilds out there that have content on farm, and they have a queue in waiting usually to join these raids. So the earlier you get in, the faster you'll get in the raids.
There's definitely guilds for every type of content. Like there's RP guilds, you have casual raiding guilds. Like I even know there's a guild who actually use a shaman tank, which is really interesting.
Oh, Shock Warden, yes.
Yeah. And you also have another raid where you see a melee hunter who's using like the dagger from Maraudon, or Princess, which is super interesting to see as well. Like there's guilds for any type of content you want to do here. There's even guilds for like specific countries. I know there's a Danish Discord that just popped up. Since I'm Danish, I know about it, of course.
Yeah, I've seen the German guild also. Is it Turtles with Benefits? I believe that's the German guild.
Yeah, I think so.
The one Fallout joined. Yeah,
There
I think
used,
so.
yeah, there used to be another one called Schmetterling's Brigade as well.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, yeah, with Molkerai. That one's a really old guild too.
Yeah, Turtle is full of old and young guilds, and usually, like obviously there's more life in a newer guild, but an older guild offers stability.
Yeah, I'd still say like there's a guild for everyone. Even like the differences between hardcore guilds is like just finding a community that like you really feel like is like right for you is really important too. I feel like because it is basically like a second community you're joining and you're talking with a bunch of other people.
If you want like a more gameplay specific tip, I would suggest that um you can, not look up any of the new content before you do it. And as soon as you're in level range to do it, just do them until you get until you see every single item from each boss. Like, don't look up a loot table, don't look up a guide, just do it. Talk to the people, say that you've never done this before, have them tell you the strats, the routes, all that. Because the most fun in WoW to me was always learning the new stuff, learning the new dungeons, learning the new raids, learning the new class changes, all that.
That immersive feeling is really awesome. I had the same when I was playing my hardcore before he died. Like I had a really fun time, and usually I'm not the type of person who like ever enjoyed leveling. But as soon as I picked up hardcore, it just felt super relaxing. I think I honestly might do it again. I had a really fun time playing hardcore. Like the hardcore community here is awesome as well, and like the stuff devs do for hardcores is awesome. And I also
Yep.
know like they're gonna do level 60 hardcore at one point for those who want to.
Yeah, yeah. I think the hardcore challenge is as a whole is a massive part about WoW. Like a lot of people try it, a lot of people come here only for it, and then as soon as they hit 60, they just don't play the character anymore. For a lot of people, it's about the journey, and
Yeah,
that's completely valid. Turtle WoW, you can play however you want to play. Like the to connect this with like the main goal of this podcast. You can play however you want to play, and it would suck if someone told you that, hey, the way you play, we're going to ruin it, we're going to nerf it. So if you're a guy who plays only hardcore, who levels to like 60 and then stops, if you're a guy who role plays and then just makes a new character to role play with, even if you dislike raiding, you don't have to tell it to us, and you don't have to say, well, it's deserved, take it easy, this is what I would do, because you're not us, we're not you. If we enjoy raiding and we enjoy getting consumables the same way we've always done so, and the same way we want to continue doing it, and they make a change that, ruins it, I think it's normal for us to be upset and ask for it to be reworked or changed.
yeah. And we're not like saying like do this and this. We're just coming up with general suggestions and like ideas and our thoughts behind some of these kinds of changes. On the topic of hardcore and guilds, I know there's a hardcore guild who does level 59 rating, and they will be doing level 60 rating as soon as that becomes a thing. They're called hardcores, and they're also currently doing events for lower level dungeons with like 2 weeks apart. So you do like Welling Caverns this week, and then in 2 weeks you do the next dungeon and so on. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, those guys, from what I understood, they're on the hardcore end of the hardcore challenge, right?
Yeah, yeah, and you have Shield Maiden, like Sorcerer said. Shield Maiden leveled like I think 2 or 3 warriors, if not more, with like slow mode and hardcore.
I've seen that warrior have edge masters on his hardcore, and hardcore players cannot buy from the auction house. He farmed edge masters on multiple warriors.
Exactly. And you have Chitty, who's playing his hardcore as well. He has like 6,000 HP as level 59 with Edge Masters and like full tier 0.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. And then if you then take a look at his bags, I know I saw the pictures of his bank. He has like 800 Dark Iron ores and like 600 Grom Slot and all that just
Jeez.
saved.
He's
Uh,
ready for raiding.
yes, totally. But that guild is definitely hardcore when it comes to raiding. Like they all have to like prepare Flask of Petrification for every UBRS they do.
Can we talk about the moo in world chat? Well, I it kind of ties into this, so yeah, sure. Um, Recently there's been a unfortunate gold selling website that we're not going to name popping up, and whenever they pop up in trade chat or world chat or in on just in Stormwind or Orgrimmar, the players immediately start spamming moo in the world chat or trade chat or whatever in a way to block out the message and try to make the gold seller be inefficient. It is rather funny, but I think the gold seller's rise came with about the same time when we lost world buffs, so I don't personally think it's a coincidence that raids are taking longer, consumables are getting more expensive, and suddenly gold farmers appear. It's a bit too convenient to be coincidence.
I did find it really funny at first with the move spam and all that. I even participated in it myself.
Oh,
But
me too.
I feel like at this point, it just gives more attention to the gold sellers whenever they advertise because now you're basically screaming, hey, this guy just advertised gold. And some people might scroll up and look because he just put an advertisement out.
Yeah, we do have to admit though that sadly because of the limitations of the team being small, we did have to suffer by making the minimum level requirement to talk in slash say be level 10 in an attempt to combat the gold sellers rampant, character creation and spamming, which it's something like it's really, in my opinion, unfortunate that we have an RP server where you can't chat for the first 10 levels.
Yeah, it feels super limiting and it sucks. But I understand why they did it, of course.
Yep.
And the issue arrives again, like, how would you combat it properly? You can't really, like, do anything about it.
No, sadly you can't. It's a the best bet we can have is like, uh just GMs are awake a lot. We have a lot of hardworking game masters.
Yeah, and they're doing their best, and it is working out pretty well. What else is
Oh.
there to talk about?
I believe if there's no more questions, we can go to conclusion. I'll give the stream like a minute to catch up. Maybe people in chat have more questions.
Yeah, sounds good. By the way, this soundtrack that's been going on in the stream is from TWoW itself. The music is really chill. You can find it on Spotify and SoundCloud.
Who should get the next sippy trinket? That's going to Zaz. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I should go to Zaz.
How to keep playing for 10 years without burnout? Take a lot of breaks and, prioritize real life over the game.
Yeah, as soon as it starts feeling it starts to feel like addicting, which I have experienced. It just doesn't end up well.
There's a difference between going on a break and quitting the game. And the important thing is that you decide which one you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Just play at your own pace. If you feel like you're gonna burn out, you should probably adjust your schedule to like avoid it. I feel like.
Yeah. And remember, it's an in-game tip in World of Warcraft. Remember to enjoy Azeroth with your friends, but also outside Azeroth. I think it's a loading screen tip they added in like Wrath of the Lich King or Cataclysm. And I think it's actually a very good thing to consider that the people you meet in this game and you make friends with, you can talk to them on Discord, on Facebook. You can go out and meet them. It shouldn't be. You shouldn't feel like it's limited to only WoW. Like the people
Exactly.
who enjoy your company in WoW most likely will enjoy your company in other places.
Yeah, because taking a break doesn't mean you're leaving like the friends behind you made. You can still talk to them and all that. What do you think about moving the client to a more recent one? I'd welcome it.
Um.
I'd welcome it. I like the vanilla or the Wrath client
Uh.
way more.
I wish I had it as a picture. I'll try to find it. Zimmer, you can go on.
Yeah. Well, the vanilla client is really poop. Like nobody can disagree with that. Like a lot of us are like using vanilla tweaks and vanilla fixes just to make the client run smooth, while it still ends up running less smooth than the Wrath client. So I'd welcome that change because it wouldn't really modify the game. It would just make it run better. I think, however, TWoW in itself decided to keep a vanilla client just to make it feel more immersive. Because it was, at the beginning, it was pretty much made for like people who played the game 16 or 18 years ago.
I don't know if you have a way to like put this on the screen right now, but this is the answer for your question from the devs themselves.
Like, hold on. That's actually pretty funny.
Just put it on. So to answer your question of is there going to be a new client? Here is your answer. This is what I got when I asked Jamie.
Like, kick W's, that's awesome. Will we ever do an episode dedicated to PvP and Battlegrounds? It's definitely not out of the picture. I always enjoyed PvP, and I played PvP for a long time. Like, I have rank 14 on my Rogue and like rank 11 on my Hunter, so...
We'll have to ask around to find someone who does PvP and is not a brand risk, just to say it gently.
I think Arky would be a really great fit.
Yeah. I think if we continue like this, the goal will be to be accessible so anyone can, come in and understand what's going on, even new players. So it will be very nice if we can invite people who are not just, Tapsy hardcore parse raiders, but also like, I don't know, like some casual raiders or like someone like from a more laid back guild, like, I don't know, like Clickers or Blackwing Guard or like Traveler or maybe even an RP guild. Maybe we'll get an ERPer to join in a podcast.
I could ask Paul. He still has his own guild. He's still running. But yeah, getting representation from like every aspect and every kind of player would be really awesome. Also, the reason no one plays Sunny Glade is because the design itself, I feel like, is very weird. Like, the idea was definitely there, but like the concept of going around the map, ignoring other players, and collecting these things called sparks just felt weird from the get-go, I think.
I don't think I ever tried it.
It's basically like a PvE simulator, in my opinion. Like, nobody really PvPs except when you like go into the middle. So you have like this middle area of the map you go to. So collect all these sparks around the map, but to turn them in, you have to like capture the middle point. And that's like... when I played it that one time, it was just like two Horde Warlocks, like very geared, just defending it. You couldn't really get through.
That's really cool. I kind of want to try it.
If you like AV, I think you'll like Sunny Glade.
Oh, I hate AV. I just do it for the herbs.
Oh, I see. I mean, personally, I don't even have Exalted AV on my Rogue, despite having rank 14. That's just because I didn't really queue AV. I was way more into Warsong Gulch and Rathi Basin to an extent, which I still enjoy more, I think. 2v2 Warsong Gulch. Blood Rain has
Just
yeah, it has one big issue though. Consumables, not to get too far into that, but consumables being available in Blood Ring just makes it feel really poor to play, because it doesn't feel right that you can like use a free action potion and you can reset specific trinkets, and you do like /U to see who's in the battleground, and then you equip trinkets that reset when you enter. It feels really dumb.
Do you think it would help if, say, you queue up for Blood Ring and as soon as it starts, you get like a 2 minute duration on every single consumable in the game that you can have on your class? So like so there's like if everyone has it, then there is a it's a non-issue. But because it only lasts for 2 minutes, you can't abuse it anywhere else outside of Blood Ring.
I feel like consumables as a whole should be disabled for Blood Ring because 2v2 arenas is like the best way to do skill expression, but when you can just as a warrior use a free action potion versus a mage, it just feels like there's no skill expression.
Mm, that's true.
So making, say, only battleground consumables like the rank 6 potions work in Blood Ring would just be fine, I think.
I see.
I think, yeah, battle standards need to be disabled for Blood Ring too. That one feels a bit, like, weird as well.
Do you think something like Sippy set should be disabled in Blood Ring?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because you could just pre-pop Sippy set and just go in, you know?
Yep, a whole minute of almost invincibility.
And then you have a paladin who just gives you Blessing of Freedom as a warrior and you just run around
Yep.
healing for 600 every 2 seconds. I feel like it should just be like, so maybe even like mana oranges should be disabled for Blood Ring maybe. Because the fights right now have been lasting for like a long time if the right players join. So making
yeah.
only like battleground consumables, so like battleground food from AV and battleground potions without like battle standards would be really nice. Maybe even disabling the engineering for Blood Ring could be really nice because engineering for PvP is like, if you don't have engineering, you feel so power crept.
Yeah, we should definitely hold an if we, either in PvP one or some other episode, we should definitely have professions be a large discussion because
Yeah.
I personally feel like engineering has been plaguing World of Warcraft in a way, in a bad way. I think I think engineering toys can stay, but I would like to see them being, usable by non-engineers too, because
Yeah.
as it
Because
is
it
as it
feels
is, every raider has just one per profession.
Yeah, because it feels like a necessity to have like engineering for raiding. Like if you're a tank, it's really good for getting AoE threat, for example.
Yeah, like I can't really see a tank, go into Nextramus and try to tank all these small spiders without a sapper.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely agree with Surtur though. Like, I feel just grenades in general, I feel like should just be accessible to any. Like, even if you're not an engineer, you can use thorium grenades, for example. I don't see a problem in that.
Yeah, I would be even fine with like, non-engineers being able to use sapper, but make it be that if a non-engineer uses sapper, they take like 5 times as much damage
I
or
like the
something
idea of
like that.
having engineering feel like some gimmicky gadgets instead of having like these, grenades and sappers and reflectors that other classes can't use. Making those accessible to other people who don't have engineering would be really nice too. And
Yeah,
so if you, so for example, if you had engineering, you would only have access to, say, you're a goblin and you have a goblin engineer and you have goblin rocket helmet. That's like a gimmicky item, which feels nice and right, and it's not overpowered by any means.
imagine if we became, like Mist of Pandaria or something, where like every single profession gave an edge. So like imagine if we were in if we had the Mist of Pandaria professions, every single person would be an alchemist for, extra flask duration. So they would have a flask of the Titans for like 4 hours instead of two, and everyone else would be an engineer for the bombs. So like we would have zero enchanters, zero tailors, zero blacksmiths, no skinners, none of that. Everyone would just be alchemy and engineering.
Oh my god. I wanted to touch a bit more on PvP. I think the rank 14 system as a whole, like I think everybody can agree it's a bad system. I
Yeah,
think
I,
making
100%.
the gear like token based like in TBC would be a really great addition because it's
Oh
not a
yeah.
PvP server and it makes it more accessible. For example, enhancement shamans and feral druids really want the PvP gear, but maybe they don't have time to maybe even get rank 10 or 11.
Yeah, some people, they don't want to PvP at all. Like I can see how PvP is like the more competitive and toxic version of hardcore raiding for some people. I know it's not that exact. I just know how some people can, perceive it that way. So that's why they don't want to PvP. So
Yeah. PvP for one episode would definitely be like a good topic, like a main topic for an upcoming episode for sure. There's a lot of things we can talk about.
Yeah, I think people haven't really been asking questions. People just commented on the topic. Maybe we can call it here.
Yeah, we're almost at 2 hours.
Yeah, I think this is a good first episode. I
I'll
had
just
fun.
point out Shiggy who said that Epoch got it right with professions giving you like specific buffs, which I think could be a cool addition for TWoW as well, or something similar that like gives every specialization
Make
like
everything like have a fighting chance. Yeah.
yeah, or some sort of niche in a way.
All right. Well, that's it for the first episode.
This has
Hopefully,
definitely been a success.
hopefully you guys had fun. I had fun. Zoomer, did you have fun?
I love this. I'm very excited for next week.
All right. Well, if you had fun, make sure you hit that follow button for Zoomer. We'll be here next week on Tuesday. Hopefully.
And in case
for a while.
if anybody missed any parts of the podcast, this will also be going on YouTube. And Nick just redeemed John Cena rehearsal. I'll do that before we end the
No.
stream. Hold on.
All
Okay.
right, all right. He just really
Ready?
redeemed it.
早上好，是我。现在我有冰淇淋，我很喜欢冰淇淋。但是，所有的事情就你冰淇淋，所有的事情就我最喜欢。所以现在是你们时间，准备1、2、3，8个礼拜以后，所有之前就8个礼拜以后，所有之前就。I forgot the rest.
All right,
That's
well,
good enough.
that's way too. That's a bang. Let's go ahead with that.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for joining.
Thanks for
See you next
watching.
week.
See you.